Ladies and gentlemen, this RateGaming.com video. I'm pretty sure everyone on the planet by now has heard that Microsoft are indeed going to be buying Mojang. It's been formally announced, and people have asked Pearson, well, why? Why are you getting rid of the company? We don't really understand. Some regular viewers might remember that I did do a bit of due diligence and checked out Notch's personal Twitter a while back when I was kind of googling around on possibilities of him selling, and back then he did say, well, you know what, I don't really want the responsibility, but he's actually done that further. He said, and I quote on his own personal website, I don't see myself as a real games developer. I make games because it's fun, because I love games and I love the program, but I don't make games with the intention of them becoming a huge hit. And I don't try to change the world. Minecraft's certainly become a huge hit and people are telling me it's changed games. I never meant for it to do that either. It's certainly flattering. And to gradually get thrust into some kind of public spotlight is interesting. A relatively short time ago, I decided to step down from Minecraft development. At first, I failed to try and making something big again. But since I decided just to stick to small prototypes and interesting challenges, I've had so much more fun with my work. It wasn't clear how I fit into Mojang, where people did actual work. But since people have said I was important to the culture, so I just ended up staying. And he also said, and I quote, I don't want to be a symbol responsible for something huge that I don't understand, that I don't want to work on, that keeps me coming back to me. I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not a CEO, I'm just a nerdy computer programmer who likes to have opinions on Twitter. As soon as this deal is finalised, I will leave Mojang and go back to doing London dares and small web experiments. If I ever accidentally make something that it seems to be gaining traction, I'll probably just abandon it immediately. Those are pretty strong words, if I'm totally honest. Considering the public image of me is already a bit skewed, I don't expect to get away from negative comments by doing this, but at least now I won't feel a responsibility to read them. I'm aware this goes against what a lot have said in public, and I've got no good response to that, but I'm also aware a lot of you were using me as a symbol of some kind of perceived struggle. I'm not. I'm just a person, and I'm right there struggling with you. I do love you all of you. Thank you for turning Minecraft into what it's become, but there are just too many of you, and I can't be responsible for something this big. In one sense, it belongs to Microsoft now. It's a much bigger sense. It belonged to all of you for a long time, and that will never change. And he ended by saying, it's not about the money, it's about my sanity. So what are my thoughts on this? Because I've heard Notch be criticised quite heavily regarding this, because, you know, he was very against the idea of Oculus being bought out by Facebook and all of these other comments, and he's very much into open source. And now, of course, he's selling to Microsoft. The fact of the matter is, there's a couple of points. Firstly, it's got to be a company with money to actually buy out his bloody shares. People were joking with him on Twitter when, you know, I mentioned with those comments, which he did, I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was back in June. And he said something along the lines of, who the hell wants to buy the company, basically. And people were jokingly saying $10. Well, in reality, of course, he can't really do that. I mean, technically he could, but still. He could just devalue his shares or whatever, but let's just be totally honest. He's rich. He's richer than... I can put it this way. If he never made a penny on top of the money he'd already made from Minecraft already at that point, there's no way, unless he was trying to deliberately waste his fortune and not invest in anything, there's no way he could actively spend that amount of money in his lifetime or his children's lifetime or their children's lifetime. He's just got so much money. It's just ludicrous. So I completely believe that, yeah, you know, having 2.5 billion, which is the sale number, by the way, which is quite ludicrous. I actually have indie development friends that were pretty much in tears when they saw that number. But let's just be totally honest. The man, he created a culture. He's created a culture. Now, yes, as I said, the sale is about 2.5 billion. he'll be netting around 830 odd million, 833 I believe, which is still going to make him a billionaire. I'm assuming, I don't know his personal finances off the top of my head, but I'm going to assume that that does effectively make him a billionaire, which once again goes back to the whole, how the hell can he spend that amount of money? I can kind of understand the public pressure. I mean, let's just be totally honest right now. Gaming, and I don't necessarily mean everyone. In fact, I think it's just the vocal minority can be really harsh to appeal to. And this is one of the reasons that even PewDiePie turned off his comments on YouTube. Because it's like the negative always drowns out the positive. And there's someone like Notch, he's a tinkerer. I don't know the guy. I don't claim to know him. I don't claim to be in his head. I don't claim to be a psychiatrist. I don't claim to be dating a psychiatrist. But I can understand, in a way, where he's coming from. He's made his money. He's made a really large contribution to gaming. But I guess at this point, it's not even about him getting away from the public eye. It's just about him kind of stepping back and saying to himself, yeah, I don't want to be seen as the one that's responsible for any of these changes. So in other words, if there's a change to Minecraft and it's deemed to be negative, I don't want to be the one that's receiving all of the hate anymore. I don't want to be the one that people are bugging. And imagine, there are so many people. It's not like it's a standard AAA where there's a couple of million people, that might be commenting. You're potentially dealing with thousands of comments on Twitter a day in some cases, particularly if it's a negative or a perceived negative change. And I don't necessarily agree with his decision. I can understand his decision. Personally, if I say that and I'm not him, so I don't understand. I don't know what he feels. I can't feel what he's feeling, if that makes sense. But from my own personal mindset as is, I wouldn't have made that decision. Just because to me it would always be my creation, it would always be my baby, it would always be something that I'd love and cherish and would always want to be actively involved in. And yeah, people are going to complain online, but they're going to complain online anyway. But I suppose if he wants to do that and he wants more time to kind of mess about with other projects, that's great. The problem is, I don't see any of those projects ever becoming small unless he never ever announces who's creating them. Because it's like if Spielberg, just for example, was to create a movie, he's automatically, that movie's going to do bloody well because Spielberg is directing it. Whether he's an executive producer, whether he's a director, whether he's a producer, whether he's the bloody person who just happened to make coffee on set at one point, he's going to be associated with that movie, and therefore it's going to get extra additional fame. So I guess he could release the games under a pseudonym, or maybe he could just simply say to himself, hey, bugger it, I'm just going to release these games to my friends, co-workers, and, buddies, which, all power to him. At the end of the day, look, the guy's fairly young. It's not like, he's kind of at the end of his tether or the end of his life. He can probably change his mind. Who knows? Maybe he could make Mojang the second in a couple of years' time. But right now, this is good for his mental health, and if that's what he needs to do, then go for it. Personally, I don't agree with his decision, but then I am not him. I don't have all of the public backlash that he was experiencing, and I also don't have, his rather healthy bank balance. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Take care, and bye for now.